If you only had 96 hours to recover $200 million from a zombie-infested wasteland before a nuclear missile wiped it off the map, what would you do? It's pretty much an ordinary Vegas trip, just with a few more hordes of flesh-eating corpses waiting to tear you limb from limb. However, as our gamblers will soon find out, these aren't your typical shamblers we're dealing with here. Over time, they've formed some sort of society, and their head honcho runs an awfully tight ship. If we want any chance of striking it rich, we'd better start brushing up on basic strategy, because with odds like these, we'll be lucky to just break even. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the alpha zombies in Army of the Dead. Ah yes, nothing quite like the good old-fashioned road trip with the boys to take your mind off work, even though work is exactly what your mind should be on when you're hauling extremely sensitive cargo from one of the most secure places on the planet. And just what is it they're moving, one might ask? That beats the hell out of me, but given it's coming out of Area 51 in a heavily armed military convoy, I'd say it's probably not from Bespoke Post. If ever there were a time to keep your eyes on the road, it's right now. Except, of course, we gotta have the one guy driving the Humvee who can't possibly open his mouth without looking off to the side, which is why this happens.
Alright, I'll say it. It's an alien.
Oh my God.
That was close. Nice reflexes there, Frank Martin. Oh, except the fact that the transport truck you were supposed to be protecting just got blown the fuck up by a renegade Lincoln. As you two idiots pointed out like 30 seconds ago, the package could be anything from nuclear warheads to a potential space play. So it might have been wise to nut up and take one for the team before all of humanity is forced to reap the disastrous consequences of your half-baked clerk's banter. Upon surveying the crash, the NCO reports the situation back to HQ, who promptly advises they ditch any dead or wounded and GTFO immediately. Sounds a little extreme if you ask me. Then again, it might have something to do with the mystery box opening up on its own. Yeah, this is definitely gonna be an order worth following. I mean, for Christ's sake, your call sign is 4 Horsemen. Absolutely nothing about this could be good. Nah, they're probably just screwing with us. We'll just have Private Snuffy go check it out by himself. Hey, let us know if it kills you. We'll be over here debating the complicity of the Death Star engineers. For real, dude, this must be a straight up Blue Falcon for his friends to just let him walk up on this thing. You are 100% going to die. Check that. You are all gonna die. Because it turns out, all this time, you've been lugging around the Doomslayer's undead cousin. Yeah, whenever some pissed off jack dude crawls out of a metal box and starts munching down on people while shrugging off point blank mag dumps of 5.56, you know it's gonna be a bad day. Fortunately, the 2 remaining soldiers recognize this in time to split. Now, if only they had the brains to do so in the perfectly good vehicle sitting right next to them. You guys hosed the entire planet just to save this piecer. The least you can do is put it to good use. Whatever, it's fine. All we have to do is slowly jog over a small hill and we're good to go, right? No, wrong, stupid. Are you trying to get snacked on right now?
Holy shit, are you kidding me?
That really scared me.
I guess so. And they won't have to wait long, because here comes Frankenstein to finish the job. Wow, great move holding your fire until after the Freakazoid finishes slowly and meticulously ripping your buddy's jaw off. No, I get it. You're holding this monstrosity while he's not paying attention just wouldn't be sporting. Only problem is, you're a punk who couldn't run a Mozambique to literally save your own life. Well, maybe you can redeem yourself in death as a zombie. By the looks of that captivating Las Vegas skyline in the distance, I'd say you'll have plenty of opportunities in the near future. Of course, I can't be too hard on these guys. After all, it sure was nice of Uncle Sam to transport the world-ending abomination in the cheapest, most dangerous way possible. Might as well have just called him an Uber. Something like this should travel by large, fixed-wing aircraft only, along with a flight of F-35As to furiously strafe the wreckage if things take a turn for the worse. But if for some reason we just had to have F-Troop move Patient Zero on the ground, we should at the very least have kept a couple MQ-9 Reapers overhead to drone strike them out of existence the second Jack came out of his box. Speaking of which, why for the love of God would you use a container with a functional door on it? That sucker should have been welded shut as soon as it closed. Let the recipients figure out how to cut the monster out. That is, if he wasn't on his way to the nearest volcano, which he damn well should have been given he he has the power to instantly turn people into mindless killing machines. And sure enough, look at what happens. Yeah, cue the montage of the most powerful military in history getting slapped around by a bunch of walking corpses. You know what the most disgusting thing going on here is? Your filthy Mac with tens of gigs of pure trash clogging up the circuitry you've accumulated over the years. You ever wonder what's going on in your computer when you use unsafe websites? Try to download every movie I've covered and try to keep 200 tabs open because, of course, you need all of them? There is no need to. Creators of Clean My Mac X, MacPaw, did all the dirty work for you, helping the average user remove 66 gigabytes of junk per year. Clean My Mac X is the award-winning best Mac cleaner app to clean and optimize your Mac with 25 million downloads, notarized by Apple themselves. What I love about Clean My Mac X is that it's not just a random program with a UI that's indistinguishable from the malware it's supposedly trying to destroy. It is the chosen one. It's basically an extension of your Mac OS, an Apple genius inside your computer. Simple, easy, very Apple-esque. The app's most prominent feature is the Smart Scan. One button, cleanup, protection, and speed up all in a couple seconds. The next best is Space Lens. This is an interactive disk visualizer. Sounds like some Geek Squad shit, but this is the easiest way to find what thing is sucking up all your storage. For example, I had no idea that my audio recording files were not just the exported MP3 file, but also all the auto-saved project data files that were massive and hidden deep in my program files. They also have more helpful features, like malware removal and MacBook speed. Click the link in the description to download Clean My Mac X, get 20% off, and unburden your poor CPU. This offer is limited in time, available until the end of 2022. Even more ridiculous is that in spite of all this, they were still somehow able to build a wall 3 shipping containers high, some 24 miles in circumference around the interior of Las Vegas proper. That's 3,712 containers according to the news. But if each is only 53 feet in length, then it would actually have to be more than 7,000, as if supply chains weren't jacked up enough at this point. Sometime later, we find Outbreak survivor and zombie slayer extraordinaire Scott Ward hard at work in his new life as a fry cook, when in walks billionaire casino owner Blythe Tanaka, wanting a word with him. Now, just like Mr. Tanaka, you're probably wondering how a Medal of Freedom recipient who saved the Secretary of Defense from being eaten alive winds up
working at a burger joint. Mr. Tanaka, I'm well aware of my situation.
Are you? Because what I see here is a massive failure to market your own experience. Just think, book deals, movie deals, a shameless Call of Duty DLC. At the very least, you could justify starting your own self-defense survival channel Mike Glover style. Someone, get this man a publicist ASAP. However, it seems Richie Rich didn't just come here to make perfectly reasonable observations about the man's questionable life choices. Turns out, he left $200 million in a vault beneath one of the walled-off casinos, and if Drax and team can get it back before the impending nuclear strike, he'll pay out $50 million in return. That's a tough one. Spend the rest of your life slaving away in some greasy spoon, or walk away with tens of millions playing real-life Left 4 Dead. What do you think, Aldo?
I make that deal.
I make that deal.
Damn good deal.
Apparently, our hero agrees, as it only takes him a single night of fever dreams to come around and take up Tanaka's offer. The only thing left to do now is Ocean's 11 himself a crack team of mercenaries willing to risk life and limb for just a tiny fraction of what he'll be taking home. Luckily, he knows just where to look. Let's meet our lineup, shall we? Starting things off, we got Scott Ward's right-hand woman and mercenary waifu, Maria Cruz. Her particular set of skills includes being hopelessly in love with the main character and thoughtlessly backing every self-destructive decision he makes. Up next is old people wrangler and power saw enthusiast Vandero. He has the unique ability to produce a steady stream of half-baked sophistry for the next 120 minutes, as well as demolition and breaching and stuff. Now, Tanaka also mentioned we'll need a helicopter pilot, bringing us to Marianne Peters. Her expertise mainly revolves around rotor-winged aircraft. However, she also excels at chain smoking and hazardous environments. environment and cracking wise literally every time she opens her mouth. Of course, what heist would be complete without the cannon fod? I mean, hired muscle. In that role, we've got a twofer in the form of social media star Mikey Guzman and his friend Chambers. His power is killing zombies on YouTube without getting demonetized, while she specializes in being the first member of the core group to die and then be forgotten about immediately. And finally, with the money being stored in an underground casino vault, we'll need a safe cracker. And look no further than Dieter. In addition to being a goofy little weirdo that screams a lot, he's a German. And since the guy who made the vault door was also German, that means he's definitely the right guy for the job. With the dream team assembled, Scotward and crew meet with Tanaka to run through the plan. And right away, it's pretty clear Mr. Moneybags has absolutely no idea what the hell he's doing. So, for starters, he wants us to fight our way through an unknown number of cannibal corpses to reach his casino, at which point we're supposed to find and refuel a backup generator that may or may not be operational to power up the building, crack the safe, and then lug nearly 2¼ tons of $100 bills to the roof, where we'll load them onto an abandoned rescue helicopter, which again may or may not be operational, so we can fly away into the sunset. Now, obviously, the first question is, why don't we just chop her out to the casino in the first place?
You can't fly into Vegas. It's restricted airspace, but you can fly out.
Bro, that's not how restricted airspaces work. The government is preparing to nuke an entire city over this. No way they're gonna allow an unknown aircraft to potentially ferry infected outside the quarantine zone. We'll be blown right out of the sky the minute we pop up on the radar. Oh, and it doesn't get any better from there. If Tanaka's head movies are an accurate depiction of what we should expect, then this rescue chopper we're supposed to find is an old UH-1 Huey with a max internal carrying capacity of around 2 tons. And since $200 million in $100 bills would weigh over 4,400 pounds, there is no possible way we'll be able to fly both the cash and the 7 of us out in one go. Best case scenario, we load the Huey up with as much as it can carry and then pack the rest out on the ground. But of course, that's assuming the bird is still in good enough condition for Peters to get it airborne in the first place. I mean, you gotta believe this thing was abandoned for a reason, and by now it's probably got an extra 100 pounds of dust clogging up the engine. Hey, here's another question for Mr. House. If this is your casino, and given it's literally called the Bly, I'm thinking it must be, then why on earth wouldn't you just give us the combination to the vault so we can replace Gunter von Wolfhausen with somebody who has visible biceps? For real, if each of us has to move 630 pounds of cabbage just to make this work, we need as much beef as we can muster. In fact, we should probably just and everyone besides Scotward and Vandero now and see if Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, and Hafthor Bjornsson all have death wishes. With this absolute steamer of a plan established, the brain trust adjourns to get things rolling. However, there's still one last thing to discuss. This generic looking suit is Martin, Tanaka's head of security, and he'll be joining the operation to stab everyone in the back at a critical juncture. Not that you asked, but his special power is looking tougher than he really is, and taking needless risks that put everyone's lives in jeopardy. Awesome. One more person to cram into the Huey before it gets blown to pieces by a telephone pole-sized surface-to-air missile.
Anything you need, you talk to me. I can access any hardware you might want.
Hey, welcome aboard. So, about that hardware you mentioned, there are just a few things we're gonna need to make this venture a little less impossible. First off, we'll need a few RQ-12A Wasp portable UAVs we can use to recon our path to the casino. We'll also want some PD-100 Black Hornet nano drones for scoping out interiors to make sure we don't walk in on any surprise hordes. As for transportation, we've already established the helicopter isn't gonna cut it, so we're going to need something we can use to quickly and quietly move through the wreckage to and from our objective. Since we have to transport over 2 tons of cargo, draft horses come to mind, but without trained riders, that could get messy fast. Plus, we don't know how they'll react to hordes of rotten bodies clawing at them from every direction. In that case, I'm thinking something along the lines of electric dirt bikes, like the Stealth B52 or Segway Dirt e-bike. Kinda soulless, I know, but electric motors won't draw in nearly as much attention as internal combustion, and that could very well be the difference between cashing in and getting our brains munched. On that note, I know everyone's excited about working on their tan out there, but when it only takes a single bite to turn you into a freak, there's absolutely zero chance of us pulling this off without full-on riot suits to keep the cooties out. Yeah, it's gonna be hot, but so is as hell, which is where you'll definitely be going without proper PPE. Just remember to hashtag hydrate and you'll be fine. Finally, and I know this won't be popular, we need way more dudes, like no fewer than 40. Fact is, the military could barely hold back the tide long enough to get the wall up, so the 8 of us will be completely hosed if we get caught out in the open. If we want to avoid making multiple trips, having 36 people to carry the loot brings the weight down to a much more manageable 122 pounds per person, especially with the electric bikes. The remaining 4 will post up on the wall somewhere far away from our intended route to create a huge distraction using crew-served weapons. I'm thinking an M2 Browning, MK19, and even an M22 for a 160mm mortar if Martin can swing it. A few RPG-7s and AT-4s couldn't hurt either. Really, anything that's gonna make a ton of noise and do a ton of damage. Split-wise, Scottward, Maria, and Vandero could still take 10 million, which is still plenty of cash, and the remaining 20 million could be divided up among the other 37 to just over $500,000 each. I mean, sure, they're still getting screwed, but they don't know that. Now that everyone's been properly briefed, the next order of business is figuring out how exactly we're going to get inside the exclusion zone to begin with. Yeah, probably should have gotten that one sorted out before we started promising folks millions of dollars. However, as luck would have it, Scottward's estranged daughter, daddy issues, Kate, just so happens to volunteer at a quarantine camp just outside the wall. And after a rather awkward reunion, she reluctantly agrees to set him up with a shady character who specializes in smuggling people inside.
Criminals! Nature Coyote.
Those coyote girls have a name?
Does it really matter? Her job literally ends like 20 feet from here. Whatever. This is Lily. Her thing is that she doesn't care about anyone. But then it turns out she actually does. Also, she's like deeply in tune with the undead power structure and stuff. With her part in all this concluded, Kate bids her father a smug farewell before heading back to the bus. That is, until she discovers her favorite refugee, Gita, never returned after being smuggled into Zombieland the other night. And that makes her angry. Yeah, take that, Frenchie. How dare you lead consenting adults into the danger zone after they asked you to. Naturally, this development makes her think she's entitled to co-opting her father's little death squad into a harebrained humanitarian effort. You know, the kind that will ultimately result in more people dying than if she just did nothing. And of course, she just won't take no for an answer, even going as far as to say she'll just sneak in by herself to throw her life away if he refuses. Know what I say? Let her. Oh, sure, call me a cold-hearted lizard person. Fact is, this is no different than your 5-year-old throwing a tantrum before loading up her Barbie pack with 2 toys and some goldfish and running away from home. She's just gonna chicken out 20 yards in and come running home to mommy. Well, her mom's dead, but you get the idea. Fine, whatever, let her join. I'm sure that won't corrupt Scottward's decision making and force him to prioritize her safety over the group's success at all. Might as well give her an intro too. Yeah, so as you already know, this is Kate, and her special trait is the super strength she uses to carry around that massive chip on her shoulder. Evidently, she's extra upset that her dad became withdrawn after being forced to kill his own wife and then selflessly lead countless civilians to safety during the collapse. So now she does volunteer work as a means of manifesting the attention she feels that she was denied. Okay, she's in. Now can we please get this show on the road already? No, I guess not, because wouldn't you know it? Now the smuggler chick says we need somebody else.
You want to make 20 grand?
Yeah, I'll make 25 grand.
Huh, looks like Paul Blart's lost a few pounds. God damn. This is the last time I'm doing this. So here we have, I don't know, what's his name? Basically, he's a huge piece of crap. And that's pretty much all that's worth saying about him since he's gonna be dead in like 2 minutes. All right, now that we have everyone, it's time to get a move on. And without further ado, Lily leads the team through one of the cargo containers into the zone. And right off the bat, things get ugly. Well, uglier. We've already walked through a few hundred undead raisins that apparently start moving again whenever it rains. What could be worse than that, right? Boom, zombie tiger. Yeah, screw this. Please tell me, among our irresponsibly wide assortment of cartridges and magazine types, someone brought subsonics in a can, so we can dome this kitty without drawing a crowd. On second thought, probably not such a great idea. According to Lily, this monstrosity guards the outer reaches of the alpha zombies' territory, and the fact that we're seeing it now means we'll have to appease them with a snackrifice before we can go any further. Now, if that sentence made absolutely zero sense to you, rest assured, it's not a monoxide leak. Probably. Evidently. Finally, a sizable portion of the resident brain eaters can solidly grasp the concept of bartering, which is where our latest team member comes in.
Hey, Cummings, let me see your gun for a second.
Well, that's one way to save 20 grand. Yeah, if you're a total scumbag who routinely abuses the people under your authority and suddenly someone you know hates you, starts acting all coy and seductive, there is a 100% chance something really bad is about to happen to you. And judging by all the distant screeching, it's about to get a whole lot worse. At the same time, Coyote Girl's lucky she didn't catch one in the spine for that. If not from the rest of the team, then from the Glock she left lying right next to the dude she just kneecapped. For real, I don't know who's more stupid for that one. Her for leaving the pistol, or him for not immediately using it on her. Either way, it doesn't matter, because in only a matter of seconds, the zombie queen arrives to accept the offering. Sucks to be you, dude. Something tells me getting your brain scooped out on the spot wouldn't be nearly as bad as whatever they've got in store for you back at the Olympus. Speaking of which, Kate puts 2 and 2 together and figures her missing refugees were probably dragged off to the same location, and now she wants to derail the entire operation to go poking around a giant hotel filled with God knows how many man-eating corpses. Because I'm sure a single human life is enough to let us invade their home base and steal their livestock. Oh, and now you're gonna act like your dad's being unreasonable for not wanting to get everyone killed. Bro, your daughter's a menace. If we're gonna have any chance of pulling this off without her doing something incredibly myopic, we need to zip tie her hands and feet now and drag her screaming back to the entrance before we go any further. Guaranteed you'll regret it if you don't. Despite securing passage in blood, Lily decides it'll be safer to proceed if they get out of the open. However, safety is always a relative term, and nowhere is that more apparent than in a city run by zombies. Sure enough, cutting through the abandoned buildings proves to be no walk in the park. Yeah, it's about the time you find yourself rubbing shoulders with a couple hundred hibernating zombies that you start to rethink all the Coachella attire. Better hope everyone put their phones on mute. And of course, now is when Chambers decides it's an appropriate time to go airing her grievances with the management.
Go for it. I don't trust you to have our backs if it goes bad.
Really, do you trust him not to redirect the trail of glowing breadcrumbs to lead you into certain death? Because that's exactly what he's going to do, now that you've just pissed him off. Can't say it's entirely her fault though. After all, who the hell looks at a hallway full of standing stiffs and thinks, oh yeah, this is totally the way we want to go? You're telling me, in the entire city, there isn't a single alternate interior route we could possibly take? You have absolutely no way of knowing how many there might be, or whether they ultimately cluster up to form a dead end. Besides, treachery or not, with 10 of us shuffling through here, it's only a matter of time before someone bumps into one or otherwise makes some kind of noise loud enough to wake the dead. And what do you know? Chambers does both. Gotta hand it to her though. She really holds her own in this hopeless situation. I mean, the fact that she doesn't immediately get chewed up like an eraser is nothing short of a miracle, especially after Martin locks her up inside the tunnel of love. That said, were I in his shoes, I would have just posted up at the exit and smoked her the second she came out. I mean, it's not like anyone's gonna be pulling a CSI in this storm, and given she was able to make it this far, who knows if she won't come crashing through some random window when we least expect it. However, instead of doing or saying literally anything that might implicate Martin in her untimely demise, she sort of just screams and grunts a lot before inevitably doing the whole save yourself routine. For Christ's sake, dude knows when to run away. If you really want to help him, you need to warn him about the snake in the grass waiting to cut his throat the second it becomes expedient. Oh, and what a good friend Guzman is, standing around with a full magazine while she fights for her life from flat on her back. Just saying, if at any point I'm being dogpiled on by a horde of flesh-eating monsters, you have my permission to mag dump dangerously close to me. Better to go out on a stray than suffer through that horror show. Nah, I get it, this was 2021, ammo prices were still through the roof. Best he can do is one bullet, and lucky for Chambers, her fairy godmother was around to help it magically ignite the jerry can on her back. Cool. Well, look at it this way. At least now you get that full $500,000. With that out of the way, the gang finally makes it to the casino, and all it costs us were 2 human lives and 1/7 of our fuel. Awesome. Maybe strolling in under broad daylight wasn't such a great idea. After all, could Undead Eyes really handle the dark any better than her own? A better approach might have been to have Martin rustle up some PVS 31s and IR illuminators and kick the slog off under the cover of darkness. Best case scenario, we get in and out before King Maggot Trap even knows we were here. Worst case scenario, we're only marginally worse off than we are now. Plus, no sunscreen. And before you go saying something like, they probably come out at night to hunt, Hunt what? The occasional refugee Lily leaves for the dead? Everything in here is as rotten as they are. After strolling through the front door and cleaning up the handful of shamblers roaming around outside, Scottward and team come across another set of vault blueprints sprawled out on a nearby table, indicating they aren't the first team Tanaka pulled to recover his missing cash. Naturally, Martin denies knowing anything about it, which is obviously a lie, but why would this come as a surprise to literally anyone? Dude wants his money back. Of course he's gonna keep throwing mercs at it until something sticks. Hey man, you never told us this mission might be dangerous. Give me a break. If anything, you should be grateful the first string couldn't hack it. It's not like you were gonna find $50 million at the bottom of a deep fryer. That said, if I had to guess, these guys probably only checked out because they split up. You know, just like old Scottward wants us to do now. Fantastic. You do realize, just because there was only a handful of zombies on the casino floor, doesn't mean it's not straight dead rising everywhere else, right? At most, I'd break us into 2 teams to focus on the essentials, the vault and the exfiltration. However, we should only do that after we make sure the rooftop is secure enough for our pilot to get to work. No point in going through everything else if there's no way for us to actually move the loot, right? Once that's taken care of, we'll leave Maria on the roof to watch Peters' back, and the rest of us will head down to the generator. We can't access the basement without power, so there's no point in sending anyone down there ahead of time anyway. At that point, the 7 of us will head to the vault together to make sure Dieter has a safe working environment. Then, and only then, do we split into smaller teams, leaving Guzman and Vanderoe to guard the geek, while Scottward, Kate, Lily, and Martin focus on barricading the entrance. One thing's for sure, letting Tanaka's slimy right hand slink off with Virgil to run a perimeter check by themselves is asking for trouble, especially since that's not actually what they're going to be doing. Instead, he's got her out on some smooth-brained side quest to capture a sample of the Queen's blood, and it turns out Lily knows just how to find her man. Man, it sure is irresponsible of the Zombie King to let the most important person in his regime go chasing down gunfire with only a single guard. Oh no, how could that have happened? Seriously, no way this guy's the first one to take a shot at her. Of course, Martin should have zapped her escort first before he went all guerrilla mode. It's a good thing Fifi was on the scene, or we'd only be left to guess the true nature of his insidious plot, which apparently starts with him sawing Queen Zeke's head off. So much for a vial of blood. God, what an absolutely brain-dead play. Oh, a little blood is good, so her whole head is better? What? I mean, maybe, but as Lily points out, whatever arrangement you had with these freaks is almost certainly off, and we haven't even cracked the safe yet. Speaking of which, with the power restored, Team Ramrod has finally cleared its way to the objective. There's just one problem. Tanaka said we'd have to trigger a few less than lethal countermeasures to reach the vault door. Fortunately, Vanderoe has a plan. Not a bad idea using zombies to trip the sensors, but we can't exactly control their every move. Sure, it's not like we're gonna run out of them, but why not put a couple dead ones on a cart and push that down the hall? Whatever. If it works, right? Okay, let's see what we got here. Darts? Not quite what I expected, although I guess it makes someone reconsider their life decisions. So what's next? Machine guns? Alright, apparently Mr. Tanaka doesn't know what less than lethal means. Kinda makes me worried the next trap involves fuel air explosives.
Is it safe now?
This is my kind of safe. Vault-Techs really stepped their game up. Wait. You're not actually going down there, are you? For all you know, the Red Queen's about to throw a grid at us. We need to get another zombie to walk the rest of the way to the door. Are you really gonna bet the life of your most important teammate on this thing following baseball rules? For that matter, why wouldn't Tanaka tell us exactly how many traps we should expect? It doesn't exactly do him any good if we wind up splattered across the home stretch. In fact, I'm starting to wonder if he actually owns this thing in the first place. Could just be an imposter out to rip off the real deal. Well, whatever he is, too late to worry about it now, because Dieter's finally in position to work his magic on the dials, and not a moment too soon. It turns out, for the first time in history, a government decided to move something up instead of just postponing it indefinitely. And wouldn't you know it, that just happens to be the atomic bombing of the zombieverse. Classic. Now, by the time the vault is finally open, we'll only have 20 minutes left to make our escape before we wind up vaporized. And just in case things weren't bad enough, look who's come Naruto running in for some payback. You know, maybe, just maybe, if you morons didn't spend a good couple minutes making it rain and talking about your feelings, you could have loaded up at least a few bags worth of cash before the horde showed up. It's not like you were already on an extremely tight timetable or anything. Oh, and by the way, guess who thought 20 minutes was enough time to search an entire casino full of zombies for one person who might already be dead? For real, dude, I think your daughter might actually be trying to get you killed. I mean, obviously he's going to go after her, and it's not like Maria's gonna try to talk him out of it. On the contrary, she's trying to go with him. Of course, that'll be pretty difficult for her to do with her head on backwards. At least she got to see him one last time before she died. Okay, jokes aside, let's rewind a second. You see that look of shock and horror on her face when she sees the ghouls in the elevator? That's what happens when you get too comfortable in the AO. Zombies here? Where did they come from? You were just shooting them a couple minutes ago. It's not unreasonable to think more would have gotten inside, especially when you spent all of 0 seconds reinforcing the main entrance. For Christ's sake, she didn't even have her piece with her at the time. How complacent could you possibly get? That said, it also doesn't help that Scottward had a solid 2 count to squeeze Trig and just stood there gawking while she got hunked. Sure, go Super Saiyan on the zombies all you want, dude, but it's not gonna change the fact that you totally could have saved her life. Oh well, too late now. Just shake it off and blame it all on your bleeding heart daughter. That's what I'm gonna do. With happy time officially over, Martin leads the team to a nearby fire escape, which for some reason requires a key card to open from the inside. I'm guessing that's not up to code. Then again, Tanaka also had tripwire machine guns down here, so it's not unthinkable that he would rig this place up like a dungeon for any potential thieves. I mean, that's certainly what Martin's using it for, and just wait until you hear why.
Tanaka doesn't give a shit about the money. What's in this bag? Throw 10 times what's in that vault.
What? Wait, what? Are you saying Tanaka's just been equipping a bunch of treasure hunters on the off chance they'd bring back a sample by accident? Because he'd have to be living off straight up paint chip pasta to think of something like that. What possible reason could you have for not telling us this from the very beginning? We could have just chopped that freak's head off and left when we were right by the entrance. Even still, why wouldn't you have taken off the second you got it? You already knew the rest of the zombies would come unglued over it. Furthermore, what about having this thing means you suddenly need to screw everyone over? You could have just said nothing and worked with everyone to ensure you all make it out alive. Now you're completely alone in a hostile environment, home to a zombie tiger. Oh, and speak of the devil. Well, don't just stand there. It's not a T-Rex, moron. It's a jungle cat, and facing away from it only makes it more likely to pounce on your dumb ass. Just like that. Man, might have to break out the puppy footage for this one. Yeah, I'm not even gonna bother blurring the rest out. Just trust me when I say Martin for sure got his. Meanwhile, back underground, Dieter and Vanderoe hung around to load up a few more bags of cash, and now they're right on time to welcome the guest of honor. Wait, really? You're gonna go mano a mano with this nightmare? Look at him. He's gonna fold you in half like a lawn chair. At least have Dusseldorf hang back to split his wig the second he takes his helmet off. Matter of fact, where the f***'s your rifle? It's like everyone just threw their kid away the second they saw all the money. Lucky for Vanderoe, he spent his narrative arc befriending Vault Boy. Otherwise, he would have gotten a first-hand look at how the other half lives. That said, good on Dieter for making the ultimate sacrifice and all. But it definitely looks like he could have just pulled the door shut using that ring part on the inside. Oh, well, good news is he'll make for a pretty lame zombie once he finally turns. As for everyone else, Lily was able to cut their way out using the rescue saw, but they're nowhere near home free. Now's when our cardio better be on points, because we can't afford to gas out this close to the finish line. I'm looking at you, Scottward. You let Guzman get isolated playing human turret back there, and now he's getting the buffet treatment. Hey, at least he has the common courtesy to clack off his grenade vest and get the rest of them off our backs. Still, dude had like $2 million on it. It would have been worth it to maintain a tight formation around him and move deliberately, yet briskly, towards the elevator. Gotta learn to move and shoot, people. It will literally make the difference between life and death. Of course, none of this is gonna matter anyway if that helicopter isn't up and running.
Give me 30 seconds!
Oh, right. Just enough time for our final showdown with the Capes Crusader. Hey, how about we get in the chopper while she works on it? You know, so no one has to valiantly sacrifice their life so the other can make it on board in the nick of time? Nah, forget it. That'll never work. Better to just put ourselves in some weirdo Mexican standoff involving a decapitated zombie head. That's right. Turns out Lily was able to pull one over on Martin before he flew the coop. Unfortunately for her, Scottward doesn't believe in shooting stationary threats from short distances away. I mean, it's not like his helmet's eye holes are the size of frickin' tennis balls or anything. And now this is happening. Brutal. If only he had the cognizance to drop a one-liner like, stick around, or get the point. Not sure why Lily would have walked away from her only means of escape. You were pretty effectively keeping him at bay by holding his boo thing hostage. So what difference would it make whether you were up in the air or standing right in front of him? Oh well, at least you get to see the pained expression on his gnarled face as he watches his beloved's head get Gallaghered across the pavement. Then again, it might not have been such a great move given you're still capable of feeling pain. So how much time we got left? 9 minutes. Sure, that ought to be enough to scour an entire building in search of someone who, as far as we know, never even made it there in the first place. Hey, Peters, you don't mind throwing your life away in support of my failed parenting, do you? Great, thanks. See you in just enough time for us to ride out on the shockwave. However, by some divine intervention, Kate not only made it to the Olympus, she actually managed to find Gita, along with some other woman who's right about to die. Well, nothing to do now but duck and cover beneath the nearest desk and await total nuclear annihilation, as there is no way any of them could possibly know the cavalry's coming to pull them out. Fortunately, the reanimated corpse of scumbag Steve is here to save the day. I mean, not for this chick, she's dead as but the resulting gunfire is just enough to help Kate's dad hone in on her location, although he's not the only one. Apparently, that cape lets him fly like Super Mario, cause otherwise we're supposed to believe Alpha King and his boys made it down to the Bly casinos, across town and up the Olympus about as fast as Scotward did in the f***ing helicopter. One thing's for sure, they really could have used Kate's accuracy during the collapse, cause she straight up lobotomizes like 10 zombies in a row with nothing but a Glock 17, and just in time to run dry on the big bad. What are the odds of that happening? Sure, no need to go for this spare magazine we saw you dramatically tuck in your belt earlier. Besides, we all know Daddy's gonna save the day anyway. Jesus, must have had danger close on. Yeah, I don't care how big that explosion was. You'd better pop another shell in that noob tube and go for the double tap, because there's no way that freak show's down for the count. Nah, don't worry about it. In fact, don't even bother closing the door behind you. We've definitely seen the last of him. However, in the end, it's all for nothing. As it turns out, Peters decided it wasn't worth waiting around for someone who almost certainly wasn't going to make it back in time. No, I won't insult your intelligence trying to sell it any further. Obviously, she has a change of heart at the last second and decides to come back for them. And as a thank you, everyone decides to take their sweet time climbing inside. Oh my god, are you intentionally buying time for the final boss to leap aboard at the last second? Because it sure seems like it. I just want to take this moment to say congratulations. You're now flying the most virulent of all the infection forms outside the quarantine zone. I really hope this little rescue op ends up being worth putting all of humanity on the chopping block. As for what's actually going on inside the helicopter, naturally, Kate and Gita can't be bothered to do literally anything to help pin this freak show down, which is why Peters ends up catching a negligent discharge right in the back. Well, that and Scotward's abysmal trigger discipline. Finally, just as the nuke is coming down, Kate remembers she actually has hands and puts them to good use, but it's not enough to save her dad from getting munched. Oh well, nothing a little atom bomb can't fix, right? Holy sh**. Guess he had those Hornady zombie killer rounds. I mean, it's either that or King Zed was chewing on an oxygen tank. Well, that was fun. Here's hoping at least one of us survives the crash. After all, someone's gonna have to put Scotward down before this entire mess repeats in Kingman, Arizona. And I've got a good feeling I know who it's gonna be. Man, just imagine giving your dad all kinds of crap for not immediately jumping on board your little conscious crisis, only to end up euthanizing him like a crippled horse after your terrible decision making puts him and his friends at even greater peril. But hey, at least you got Gita out, right? About that, I guess Kate just sorta forgot about her in the end. Although judging by the state of that Huey, I'd say this was pretty much all in vain. Oh, but it's not over yet, because look who managed to crawl out through the fallout. Mr. Vanderoe, keeping the dream alive. Nothing like carjacking your way to the nearest airport and bribing yourself a private plane to celebrate a job well done. Although, I gotta say, dude's not looking so hot. Probably has something to do with the 10 million plus chest x-rays worth of gamma radiation he soaked up leaving the city. Or maybe it's that nasty looking bite mark on his arm. Ouch, guess the fun's just getting started. In the end, of the original crew members, only Vanderoe made it out alive. Well, sort of. However, if Mr. Tanaka had even a single digit IQ, he would have been upfront about the real purpose of this mission from the start, and then literally every single one of them could have made it out alive. Even what's his name? The guy Lily shot. You know, maybe. He kinda had it coming. Regardless, had Scotward expanded his team and taken full advantage of Martin's hardware offer like we suggested, I think think they very well could have cashed in without alerting the Horde. And for that reason, Army of Dead was beaten. Moral of the story, don't lie to your mercenaries.